All right, friends, welcome to part 2 of this build video. We'll start off, I got the van painted. It has been clear coated and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I've also done the window seals on the back here. I didn't do any here because I'm going to paint these doors to look kind of like a rusty orange so that they're reminiscent of the foot tenderizer on the old Playmates toy. I chromed up all the chrome pieces. But yeah, really happy with how the paint turned out. Been doing some chrome work on the windows here. Now, I had an issue with the taping off that I had done. It didn't fully protect the backside of this when I painted this green. Initially, this was all this yellow color. And then I painted it green and I didn't mask it off as well as I thought, I guess, and it seeped through the tape. And that's after having painted it yellow again first, because usually if you mask it off and then paint it the same color as the base color before going over with your new color, that base color will bleed through and you'll be safe. But because these are such thin strips, it just didn't really work very well. So I had all kinds of bleed through that I had to kind of sand down. So what I ended up doing was just blending a color to touch it up with. And I got pretty close. Now, I actually previously blended some touch-up paint for the body, and it was like within 5% closeness, which as an artist, being able to color match something like that it's in the top 5 moments of like things I've ever done, I think. So I was very proud of that. This one not as close. I mean, you can see the line there, but also this isn't as thick a coverage, so you are seeing some of the primer on the underside show through, but it's going to work quite well for what I need. So got the front windows in, and this is just a piece of the front of like some action figure packaging, double-sided, taped it on the inside. But yeah, came out pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. This one got a slight blemish on it because some tape got stuck to it and I had to try to get it off, and that was once the windows were already in, but figure, you know, it's an old van, this will just be like a rock chip, and that way it adds a little seasoning to it. So all right, I got the dash pretty much dialed in here. I painted the dials and the tuner and stuff on the little radio, and then I printed off some gauge images that I found online in various sizes. I cut them to size and added them to the dash. Then I chrome painted the bezel too on the ends there. And then I used some clear plastic film to make the sort of glass on these pieces. And I'm happy with the results. It ended up being what I wanted to. And then I got the cigarette lighter chromed up and glued on. I need to touch it up a little bit because it's a little light in the middle. But yeah, that's the dash. So that's going to be ready to go inside the van as soon as it is done drying from the clear coat. All right, I am currently making door panels for the interior. So what I'm doing is just cutting some paper templates. I've traced along here. I've made marks as to where the chassis piece goes. So that's where it lines up. And then I'm going to use this brown pleather to make the door panels. Now, the nice thing is it's symmetrical, so I just have to make one template and then I can just flip it over and use that for the other side. So I'm actually really stoked because I just remembered. So these are two-toned in the vehicles, right? In the actual Volkswagen buses, these are typically have a strip of something lighter down the middle. I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit, and then I remembered that I have this like jewelry box felt adhesive stuff that I got for my kit Knight Rider car that I used this as the carpet for the floor panels in the vehicle. And this just happens to match the seat color that I mixed like perfectly. I mean, I wasn't even trying. That's like basically identical. It's pretty wild. So I'm going to cut strips of this and put it in here, and that is going to be the two-tone door paneling. This other camper van I mentioned in part 1 that I have been pillaging a few little parts from, I'm actually going to take these door handles off of it because these painted silver will be the perfect size just about for the interior door handles of the van. Hopefully that helps it to just look a little bit more realistic. All right, excuse the mess. Getting down to some of the final steps of this project, and I'm really excited to finally be getting there. So next up, I need to put the dash in, and I already cut it so that it is like perfectly aligned with this front piece here. This is gonna sit right in there like that. And I'm just gonna hot glue this in place. And then this little piece of tubing here that I cut is kind of a guide piece, and that'll sit right on top of this. Now, I don't remember if I showed this yet, but I also made this gear shifter. So Basically, I just took a styrene rod and heated it up and bent it at this angle here. And then I just super glued a BB to the end of it to be the little like ball and the shifting knob. That's just gonna get glued right on there like that. Currently giving the engine a little sprucing up. So this is what it looked like, and I'm changing the air cleaners to green. Also a matte finish paint. Once this dries, it won't be so shiny. And that'll look a lot more like the fibers that these are actually made out of instead of this like, you know, metallic look to it. And then I'm gonna spray this whole thing with a Tamiya smoke tint. Same thing I used on the Batmobile wheels and like side engine parts on the 89 Batmobile customization that I did. And that just gives it a more kind of a greasy, lived-in, mechanical look. I'm excited to get that done, and then I'll get this screwed back into the little engine bay. And I've already painted it yellow to match the rest of the van, but then I kind of let some of the black show through so that it would have kind of a dirty look. I'm going to leave it exposed the way it was on the old Party Wagon. There was a sticker that went on the back to show where the engine was, so from the Playmates version. So that's going to be kind of a little callback to that. All right, and here it is, the moment that many of us have been waiting for, myself included, the finished turtle van. You know, first off, I just want to thank everybody for their continued support on this project. You know, everyone's excitement for it to be done really helped kind of push it over the finish line for me. It was a little bit delayed because we had some really bad winter weather here. We lost power for like a day, and you know, so that kind of put a wrench in my gears as far as finishing this thing. We can't use a liquid spray paint in 12-degree weather. So I'm really happy that it's finished. You know, this is something I've wanted on my shelf for a very long time, especially after finishing my custom turtles. Being able to have this next to them is going to be really, really awesome. I haven't actually placed them next to it yet, so when I do it, I'm going to see it for the first time, and so are you. You know, I did a lot of research while making this thing. There are a couple of real-world Volkswagen vans that have been turned, and it looks really cool. It's a later model than this one, so it's not the split window. I think this is like a 63. This is more in line with what the turtle van was based on, I believe. So it's, you know, it's cool to see the turtle van represented through one of these. This is the only one like this that I've ever seen. I think because you can get a turtle van toy pretty easily, you know, the Playmates one, especially with the reissue, and now Super 7 and the NECA one and the like knockoff import one. That decreases the demand for a custom thing like this, I think, because, you know, it's easier to just buy one and have it, especially if you want one that's a specific representation of the version that you love from the cartoons. I wanted to do, as I stated in the part 1 of this video, a realistic version. So one that looks like it's, you know, maybe April gave them her old van and they tricked it out a bit. And so that's what I made. So let's talk a bit about some of the general aesthetics of this. You know, I wanted this to kind of evoke all the different turtle vans. So, you know, the one from the 1990 movie, which was not technically a turtle van, but the van that April had. The Party Wagon toy, which was different, obviously, from the one in the cartoon. And then a bit of the one from the cartoon as well. So I think this is probably the most evocative of the toy. Reason being is the toy had the orange door, you know, the foot tenderizer, and it had the kind of orange stuff up top and the spoiler in the back. And so what I wanted to do with this was kind of give it that sort of like real world equivalent. So, you know, we have the visor here. I think this visor is integral to the look of the turtle van because it changes the profile completely. When you're looking at it and it doesn't have this bit, like it's just, you know, a flat little van, but you add this and it like gives it so much character, right? So we've got that in homage to the Party Wagon. Also the colors, the Party Wagon was green on the top half like this, whereas the cartoon version was only green from the top up, and then, you know, some of the accents. Also the orange door. So the idea is, like, you know, they had this van and then they had to swap out the doors because maybe they got damaged, and so they only had these kind of old rusty patina orange looking ones to put on. And, you know, the Party Wagon also had that spoiler in the back, and the cartoon version has that kind of hump up there, right? So I wanted to kind of pay homage to that, and that's how I ended up with the roof rack, as I mentioned in the last video. And then, of course, if you have a roof rack, you got to have some stuff to put in it, right? So I found this little kit on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. It came with like shovels and 2 gas cans. And then it also came with this winch here. And then I ordered these little stretcher boards separate. This is the kind of thing that, like, when people are off-roading and stuff, they have those on the back that, you know, if somebody gets injured down in a hard to reach area, they can carry them out, right? And it's the perfect orange color to pay homage to the Party Wagon. You know, I had those little bomb missile things and like the little laser cannons or whatever on it. So I wanted to kind of evoke that, but also a spoiler. And so having that up there sort of does both. So it's kind of a 2 birds, 1 stone situation. So, and then this is from a Dukes of Hazzard General Lee that I previously, one of my first videos on the channel actually, was I customized that into a Dodge Charger for Blade. So I had this and I was just waiting because I knew I'd use it at some point. I did wire this up. So just got a battery pack underneath and a little light switch. You probably can't see it with the lights on in the room here, but it does light up. They're not the brightest lights, but they scale well. I mean, that's the thing about lights, is like you can have lights that are too bright for what you're doing, and I don't think it looks very good. So in this case, they scale pretty well. Now on the back here, the only difficult thing was I couldn't get this painted on deco thing off of this window. I took rubbing alcohol to it, I took sandpaper to it, and there's just it's just really on there. I mean, you know, if I wanted to keep at it forever, I eventually would have gotten it off, but it wasn't that important to me, especially because you won't really see it while it's in my display. I did put some window tinting material over it, and that obscures it well enough. So I'm happy with that. And I couldn't cut this out because it is integral to how this thing fits onto the vehicle. Like, it's actually attached via this piece here that goes into the back of that. So there was no cutting that out. And you can actually see into there, which is pretty cool. We'll look at the interior in a moment here. I've got the engine painted up. As I mentioned, I repainted the air filters and just kind of dirtied it up and made it look a little bit more sort of realistic and tangible and less like glossy plastic. And it looks pretty cool. I decided to leave it exposed because it is like that in the Party Wagon toy. You know, there's a sticker to symbolize the engine. And so I thought that would be a cool little homage to that as well. All right, so if there was one thing that I would do a little differently on a redo of this, it would be the rag top. I'm happy with how it turned out, but the glue didn't quite dry as clear as I thought it would. So you can kind of see some staining from it, which isn't a big deal, especially because I'm going to keep it open all the time, but you can kind of see some of the striping on there where it's just a little bit darker. Also, I would have bent these rods to a curve. I didn't think about doing that, but following the curve of the roof line here. That would have been cool, just so that this wasn't flat when it's shut. But again, I'm going to keep it open, so it's not that big a deal. But I think also curving it would make it go more smoothly, because as of right now, it's not like the smoothest transition, and sometimes they pop out like this as I'm trying to put them back in. But, you know, overall, it does pretty much function as it's supposed to. And it does do this sort of rag top, like folds like this. So I'm overall pretty happy with it. Here's a closer look at the stuff I put on top. So I just kind of tied this off with some, you know, random bits of stuff I have. So, and I thought this was a cool thing too, because they're heroes, right? So they are, you know, they might be helping people. There might be a situation where they need to get somebody somewhere and they can load them up on a stretcher. So let's kind of zoom in on the interior here. So here's a look at it from the back. And you can see I put lining in it. So it's got those interior panel pieces on the... And then in here you can see the seats in there. Part one I showed you, I put the little duct tape, the little faux duct tape that I made on there. Little seat belts. And then it's a little hard to get this angle, but there it is with the dash. Now, the only issue I had was that the steering wheel was very hard to place. I had some glue to kind of hold the base of it against the floor, and that came undone. So I'll have to go back in and try to tweak that a little bit, because ideally the steering wheel would sit up a little more like that. But, you know, as it is, it still looks pretty good. And then the wires for the headlights just kind of tuck in there. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this. You know, we got the door handles on the interior there. And then I left these windows open so that I could stick my fingers in there if I needed to. And then it's got windows all around the front and in the back here, on this side as well. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty detailed interior in terms of the stuff I've made. Like it's basically a full car interior that's fairly accurate to these old vans. So I'm really pleased with how it came out. Another detail is I flicked brown paint on the wheels and the side panels here. I really wanted to give it that kind of lived-in look. Show that this stuff is getting dirty and it's aged a little bit. A little bit of staining in the door seams. You know, this thing is probably stored in a sewer, right? Just the kind of uneven paint on these doors here. The thing is, you don't want to weather stuff too much because then it just looks fake. And you don't want it to look like you just took a brush and globbed it on. That's why I like to flick the stuff on there to give it that mud spray look. And the moment I've most been waiting for, here's the van with the turtles themselves. And dang, this just looks so cool. This is the first time I've set them up with it, like I mentioned, so it is pretty cool to see them all together. Of course, Donnie's driving because he did most of the work to the van. You know, that's one of the things about this is I wanted to keep it to look like something that they could have done, right? The turtles are, you know, mutants that live in a sewer. They have limited resources, so I wanted it to not be like, you know, the cartoon where it's like they have all this high-tech equipment and the portals and stuff like that. This is just meant to be like they custom built some of this with the means that they have access to. So yeah, dang, this looks so cool. All right, here they are all set up in one shot, and man, this looks so cool. I'm so excited about this. We've never seen this before. Like we've never seen the turtles look like this with a van that looks like this. So this just feels so cool to have, and I'm so excited to get to share it with you guys. I mean, this is like, you know, this is one of a kind turtle stuff here, and that doesn't happen much these days, right? So it feels pretty cool to be able to have made this and share it with you guys. And this should kind of answer the question, can the turtles fit in the van? Technically, yes. However, you know, you can go back and watch the videos I made on the turtles and how I built them and stuff. They're pretty recently on the channel. The articulation is fairly limited because of the shells and because of the fabric that's stretched over their joints. So, I mean, yeah, they could sit, like they can be put in a sitting position, but, you know, their shells really make it so where like they can't really fit on a seat because the seat doesn't give and their bodies don't give. So it just won't really work right. Plus, you know, the doors don't open. I talked about why they don't open in the part 1 video, but the reason being is that this window piece here, like the front windows, you can see it's a separate piece. You can see the gap. Didn't make sense to do it. And finally, here they are on the shelf where they're going to live. And eventually I will have a full diorama like I do on all of these shelves with a backdrop and everything. But for now, this is where they will be and how they'll look. And I'm really stoked to finally have this done and to fill this hole in the wall. I still have a couple more holes to fill. I got to do that DeLorean still. That's coming up at some point on the channel. I'm trying to go for all of the iconic vehicles and the characters that go with them that I can do. So all this stuff has been on the channel for the most part. And any one of them that I had to customize or build, like this tumbler I built, customized the John Wick Mustang, built that kit down there. So if you enjoy that kind of stuff, you know, click subscribe and join me as I make all this cool stuff. I would love for you to be a part of the channel. We have a fun little community where, you know, I reply to everybody. So I'm always answering questions, and, you know, I've made some cool buddies through this. So I really appreciate, you know, each and every one of you for enriching my experience with this. You know, I could be just doing this all by myself, but it's nice to share them with you and talk. And sometimes we trade tips and, you know, inspirations and stuff. Now, on that note, I do want to remind everybody that these are my specific take on the turtles. This is how I want them to look for my shelves, as well as the van. You know, everybody loves the cartoon stuff with the lasers and the, you know, all that. And I love it too, but that's not what I was going for. Otherwise, I would have just bought the NECA one and called it a day. So this is my interpretation. It may differ from the way that you like them, and that's totally fine, because it's a big world and there's plenty of room for all of our likes and opinions and whatnot. I do these videos in a way that is to try to share the process, so that hopefully if you want to try it, you can do it too and make the one that you want in the way that you want it. So yeah, but anyway, thanks to everybody for coming along for this ride. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm glad we finally made it. So that is going to do it for this video. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I invite you to click the like button and hit subscribe and join me as I make cool stuff. You know, custom figures, dioramas, vehicles to go with the figures. I review new stuff that I get on the channel. If you're looking for other ways to support this, I've got t-shirts available. My Head on Swivel shirt, as well as several other action figure and comic book themed shirts, are available in my Redbubble shop. If you've never used Redbubble, it's pretty great. You pick the color shirt, the style, and the design you want, and they ship it right to you. Now, if you're not a t-shirt person, but you like comics, I've got several comics and graphic novels available, namely my books High Crimes, Count, and Retroactive. High Crimes is kind of Breaking Bad meets Cliffhanger. Retroactive is like James Bond meets Groundhog Day, and Count is my sci-fi reimagining of the Count of Monte Cristo. Think kind of a, you know, John Wick meets Batman meets Zorro. It's a cool story with swashbuckling action and sword fights and vehicle chases, and it's about redemption, revenge, and revolution. So those are all available at your local comic shop, bookstore, or at the links in the description below. So to everyone who's picked up a shirt already or one of my books, thank you so much. Like, it means the absolute world to me, and I really, really appreciate it. It really helps make it so that I can do this kind of stuff and bring you more videos. Couldn't ask for anything more, so thank you. So that is going to do it for this one. Until next time, keep your head on swivel.